Hello, I'm Mary Ito, and welcome to CRAM. CRAM is an acronym for Communicating Research and More, which is what we try to do on this podcast. A lot of exciting research and groundbreaking ideas never reach the public, but they have the potential to change the way we think and act. You know, I've been thinking about slippery subjects lately. We recently talked about happiness on this podcast, and that's pretty slippery. Well, today we are going to try and tackle another subject that seems hard to nail down: pain. We can't live with it, and we can't live without it. So many contradictions about pain. How can we even begin to understand it, let alone treat it? To help us navigate the complexities of pain and to talk about what seems to be a revolution going on in its treatment, I've invited Dr. Andrea Furlan, a renowned pain expert. She's a staff physician and senior scientist at the Toronto Rehabilitation Institute and scientist at the Institute for Work and Health in Toronto. Hello, Andrea.
Hey, hello, Mary. Thank you for inviting me here today.
Oh, I'm thrilled to have you here. Just before we start talking about pain, I wanted to talk about the absence of pain and whether there are people who actually have no feelings of pain.
Yes, this pain is a protective thing that we are born with, but there are people that are not born with the capacity of feeling pain. It's a disease, very rare, and it's a disease called congenital anesthesia. And these people don't live longer because they get injured, diseases, so they don't know and they can't protect themselves.
Oh, but it is rare, as you said.
It is rare.
Yeah. Wow. So then talking about pain and the fact that you said it's protective, we need it. What about the opposite? What about too much pain? Can pain itself kill you?
Pain itself will not kill anyone. But of course, if a person is suffering tremendously from pain acutely or chronic pain, which is every day ongoing for weeks, months, or years, that is very debilitating. And there has been some reports of people attempting suicide to end their lives, or even requesting medically assisted in dying because they can't live with pain.
Now, I don't know about you, but I myself have had occasion where the pain was so severe, I actually fainted. I don't know what's going on there.
I know, me too. I'm like that. Yeah. And that's a protective thing because if your body detects that something is dangerous and threatening to you, you feel pain. And one of the mechanisms of protection is lie down, stay quiet, and that's a fainting mechanism. Me too. I already had a couple of episodes that I hurt myself and I fainted for a few seconds.
So your body protected itself by shutting down. Are there people who are prone to that when they do feel pain, they will faint. They'll just black out?
Yeah, some people are. Yeah, it's not the fear of pain. It's a natural reaction because your organism will release a lot of hormones, the stress hormones. And depending on the situation, you have to fight and you have to, run. And it's not time for you to lie down and faint. But depending on the situation, if you lie down, it might be better for you to recover. And so all the adrenaline and cortisol that is suddenly released may cause some lack of oxygen and blood flow in the brain, and that's what makes you faint.
Oh, and does everyone feel pain differently?
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's very well established. Humans feel pain very, very differently. We know from scientific studies that men and women feel pain differently. The same impulse, the same stimulus cause different types of pain, not only intensity, but how they describe it. Also, the same person at different times in their life may have a different perception of pain. Even in animals with, laboratory studies, we know male and female animals, when they are stimulated with the same impulse, the same stimulus, they respond differently.
So what would be some of the contributing factors to why we might feel pain differently. And as you said, even the same person might have the same stimulus, but feel differently at one time as opposed to another time.
Yeah. It's because pain is not so simple. Pain is not just an electrical impulse that goes from, for example, your skin to the brain to tell you, you put your finger on the fire. That would be a simplistic view of pain. Pain is much more complex than that. And this sensation that you feel if you put your finger in the fire is going to go to the brain, but then the brain does a lot of things to that information. It gives meaning. It's going to compare with your memory of pain, what happened in your past. It's going to look around and see who is around you. We know that if you are in the company of a loved one and touching hands, you feel less pain with the same stimulation. So the brain will give a lot of interpretation and activate different areas of the brain. And this depends on the context where you are, your culture, your previous experiences, and even how your brain developed during childhood will predict how you respond to pain later in life.
Wow. Is there a strong genetic component to pain as far as, let's say my parents, I don't know, they had a high tolerance for pain. Right? Would I maybe have inherited that?
Yeah. We can't find these genes yet. There might be some genetic component, but the current thinking is that there's more like a cultural component, more powerful than the genes. And there is also what is really important, Mary, that we know is how the child was raised. All the years of from 0 to probably teenage years, all of the experiences they had, including emotional experiences, that influences the brain development a lot. And that will predispose a person to be more resilient to pain or less resilient.
Oh, that's fascinating. And, just going back to what you were saying, that there are significant differences between the way men and women feel pain. Like, what do we know about that?
Yes, we know they feel very differently, consistently different. So women feels more pain with lower stimulation, and they feel longer. And there are relationships with the sex hormones. We know that estrogen is one of the causes for that. But this is one of the reasons why in the premenstrual period, when the hormones are high, women are more sensitive to pain. So we even tell people, don't do any painful procedure if you are 5 days before your menstrual periods, because it's going to hurt more, like waxing your legs. Don't try to do that.
Don't do that before your menstrual period.
Don't do that before, because it's going to hurt much more if you don't. So sex hormones are relatively implicated in this difference. But not only that, it's not just the sex hormones, it's estrogen and progesterone, because even people who don't have that variation, or even premenstrual, like girls or postmenopausal women, there is still difference, and they don't have that sex hormones up and down anymore.
You know what? That sounds kind of like a crappy deal for women. The fact that we might feel pain more intensely because we're the ones who give birth to children. You would think we'd get a break, right? Because that's got to be one of the most painful experiences.
It might be also cultural, because we also know, again, pain is not just a biological phenomenon. It's a biopsychosocial. And we know cultural and social norms, they influence perception of pain a lot, because is what your brain is receiving information. Your brain is interpreting that sensation. And we know some cultures, some families, there is a difference, allowance, I would say. For girls, you are allowed to complain more. You are allowed to feel more. You are allowed, and boys don't cry. Boys don't feel pain. Boys are strong because, you fight and you go to war. So this cultural, norms, they influence how people feel pain, because if you train your brain to feel less pain, you actually can feel less pain. And if you allow your brain to feel more pain, guess what? You're going to feel more pain.
Oh, okay. So let's get to that. But on that thought, So if you allow yourself to feel the pain, you're going to feel more pain.
Yes.
Well, what does that have to do with the actual expression of pain? So if a girl is allowed to vocalize, right, the fact that she's feeling pain, is she going to feel more pain because she's vocalizing it? Whereas a guy might be suppressing, right, that urge to say something. Does he feel actually less pain or not?
They feel less pain because if you, So it's interesting because we don't have a lot of thermometers to measure pain, right? It's not like fever that you put a thermometer under your arm and you know exactly how many degrees you have. We don't have that. And in the last 20 years now, we have some laboratory measures that we can see pain better. And there are some measures looking at brain activity, doing functional MRIs, doing electroencephalogram, and other types of laboratory studies. We can see pain. We can see how much the brain is in pain. But usually our thermometer for pain is asking the person, how much is this hurting? And we give them a scale, let's say 0 to 100 or 0 to 10. 0 is no pain at all, and 10 is the most unbearable pain that you can imagine. Can you give me a number? So you start doing those experiments, and then the person gives you those numbers. So actually, if you don't expect a lot of pain, let's say you go to the laboratory knowing that someone will poke you and cause pain. And you don't expect to be in a lot of pain, and you say, I am a very resistant person to pain. Your pain scores will be lower. You're going to complain.
Really?
Yes.
So then do you think some of that would be true for men? Just because of that?
For everybody.
For everybody, if they say they're going to feel less pain. Really?
They feel less. Yeah, because pain is an interpretation. I would say pain is an opinion of a sensation. It's not really
an opinion
it's
of a sensation.
Yes. It's your interpretation of what's coming to your brain. So it's fascinating because there are experiments that they bring the person in 2 different occasions and they tell the person, one occasion they say, I'm going to do something and it's not going to hurt. The next time they bring the person and say, now I'm going to do something that it hurts. And then guess what? It was the same thing that they did. And when they told the person this is not going to hurt, the person didn't feel pain because they believed it was not going to hurt.
So that's kind of like mind over matter.
It is.
Isn't it?
Yes. It is. Yes. Totally. Pain is totally a mind over matter thing. Yes. So the opposite happens because if you expect something to hurt a lot and you are afraid of that thing, you're going to feel a lot of pain. Your pain scores will go up to the roof.
Now, I could see though that working in a negative way too, though, because sometimes we need to feel pain, right? I mean, if you deny it, if you keep, in a sense, like denying it, then so maybe
they never abolish completely to the point that they say, I am anesthetized. Well, there are some circumstances that, they did some experiments with people who are deep meditators, and they meditate, very deeply to the point that they get in trance. And then they provoked pain in those people. And they did some, they brought them to the laboratory and provoked pain. And then they measured what happened to them. So after they meditated and they were, poked with a lot of painful stimuli, they woke up and they asked these people, what did you feel? They felt pain. They said, I know this is pain, but it didn't bother me. So they could control the amount of suffering that they were having. So they felt the sensation, but they felt they were in a laboratory. So they knew they were not sleeping. They were awake, but they were meditating.
Right.
So they could train their brain to feel the sensation, but they told their brain, I am in a laboratory. The scientists are doing these experiments to me. It's not going, they're not going to harm me. And it's safe. I'm safe here. And so they could tolerate a lot of pain without suffering. So
it makes me wonder, how much of our understanding of pain has changed over the years?
Yeah. I wish more. So, our understanding, in the last 50 years, we started opening this box of what is pain.
In the last 50 years?
It's quite a 50 years may look a lot to you, but you're so young, and 50 years you were just a child.
Not so young.
It's quite new, because when you compare to other fields of medicine, like cardiology, that they discovered the heart and the cardiovascular system like 300 years ago. They discovered the digestive system 400 years ago, and they discovered the immune system. Like, our kids learn about these things in grade 6, right? The reproductive system, digestive system, cardiovascular system. But the pain system was discovered recently, 56 years ago. So it's everything is being discovered as we talk. And, but we still have a long way to go. There are still a lot of discoveries to be made, how we can learn more, because unfortunately, Mary, a lot of physicians did not learn this in medical school. They don't even know that there is a pain system in our body. So they don't know how to treat, especially chronic pain. And that's why we're in the middle of this opioid crisis right now.
Oh, yeah. And we'll talk to that in a minute. Well, when you say pain system, that's not even a term that I hear very much, right? I hear cardiovascular system, digestive system, immune system. I don't hear pain system.
Yeah.
No, that's not a term I'm familiar with. So I could understand. And my understanding too is that, for evidence to actually filter down to, I guess, medical schools, and then down to practicing physicians, and then finally to the public, that can take years, right?
Yeah. Some people say 17 years.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. And then meanwhile, in those 17 years, everything's advanced even further.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have to, find out how you translate those other evidence. So knowledge translation and dissemination is huge, because every day, much more research and scientific advances are being made that we can learn in one day.
So regarding the pain system then, because this is probably news to a lot of people listening to this, can you just briefly explain what that is? So we just get a good idea of how it works.
Yeah. And this is how I explain to my patients, because chronic pain is a disease of the pain system. And everybody who comes to me has chronic pain. So this is how I explain to them. We have this pain system in our body that is our protective pain system, is to protect us. And it's like an alarm system of a house. So when you install those sensors for, smoke detectors, break-ins, water leak in the basement, those are the sensors to detect if something is wrong. We have those sensors installed in our body, like in our skin. We have sensors for pain, for high temperature, for low temperature, for too much pressure. And many different, more than 20 different types of sensors for pain. And we have in our skin, in our bones, in our tendons, in our organs, in our heart, in our stomach, everywhere. And so the alarm system, those sensors are connected by wires. They go to a box in your house, and that box in the house is where all these wires go, and you can modulate on that box. Like in the box, you can increase the volume, decrease the volume, you can give passwords to different people. And from that box of your house, there is a telephone line that goes to this central alarm system. And that central alarm system will send the ambulance, fire truck, police, if something happens to your house. So our pain system is the same thing. Those sensors will go to the spinal cord through the nerves. And then in the spinal cord modulation, we can increase the volume, decrease the volume of those sensations. And then the spinal cord sends information to the brain, and the brain decides what to do. Which pathways will I activate? We call those descending because they go down. Which pathways go down to stop the pain? Because I know the brain says, I already know there's that part of the body that is harmed and injured. Okay, so I'll send the ambulance, the fire truck, and the police, and everything will be fixed. If everything goes okay, if your pain system is functioning okay, so you have the pain, You feel the pain. You go to the doctor. Let's say it's an appendicitis. You go to emergency. They fix your appendices and you're fixed. Chronic pain is a disease of the pain system. Chronic pain is like the alarm system of your house is going off all the time. It's very loud because the volume is loud. And the problem is not with the sensors. The problem is a lot of physicians and patients, they think that they need to fix the sensors. No, they need to fix the alarm system. And
so let me just understand this. So are you saying it could be the case where if it was, well, either appendicitis or even going back to the idea of I burnt my hand, it's all healed, but my alarm system is still going off?
Exactly. You got it. Yeah. So, and we now know with all this, in this past 50 years, this is well established. We already can see changes in the spinal cord. We can see changes in the brain. Those areas continue functioning even after the hand, the finger, the burn has healed. Yes. And those areas still are activated. They did not go to the state that they were before the burn, for example.
But why? What happened to our system that it all of a sudden became damaged and it's not functioning properly?
Yeah, there's a name for that. It's called sensitization. And we don't know why that happens because chronic pain doesn't have a function to protect the individual, right? It's just noise. It's just the alarm system going off all the time, making noise.
Mm-hmm. But it is real though, right? Even though the injury has healed, it is real pain.
Of course, they feel. And I look at my patients and I tell them, I don't know how you can live with this because it's almost like living in a house where the alarm system is going off 24 hours and it's very loud. And the worst thing is nobody believes in you because they think you're crazy. Because the doctor.
Is that when people say it's all in your head? Oh, it's all, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I tell them, because they go from one doctor to another, they do MRIs and they do a lot of exams and everybody says, I don't know what is wrong with you. I don't know where this pain is coming from. I think it's coming from your head. And that's what it's most disturbing to them because nobody knows what they have, but they have central sensitization.
So, there are different kinds of pain. Mm-hmm. What is the name for that kind of pain that doesn't have a physical source or a biological source? Yeah.
So, so the three kinds of pains, nociceptive is this pain that there is a real fire in the house. So let's say that you put your finger in a fire, it's going to burn. And that kind of pain is nociceptive pain, which means the pain system is functioning okay. And you're feeling that pain, which is very localized to that area that is burned. And you know exactly where it's hurting. It's red and you can see. The second type is neuropathic pain, which is if there is all those wires that get from the finger to the brain, the nerves, the spinal cord, if they are cut or if they are injured or compressed, like nerve injury, the brain will detect something is wrong, but the brain will say, I'm not receiving information properly. It's because the nerve has been cut. For example, spinal cord injury. Or a multiple sclerosis or carpal tunnel syndrome that the nerve is compressed here in the wrist. So the brain starts getting this tingling, burning, electrical shocks. It's not exactly the pain of a burn. It's different, but that's called neuropathic pain, which is also very disturbing. Very, very, the descriptions of neuropathic pain are horrible. After stroke, after spinal cord injury, those are the kind of pain. And then the other kind of pain is when the pain system is malfunctioning, which is this thing about the alarm system of your house is there are short circuits or it's malfunctioning. This is called nociplastic pain because it involves neuroplasticity. So that name of this pain that is the central sensitization, it's called nociplastic pain.
Is it fair to say that it's a pain with no known source?
We know, I would say we know the source. And the source is coming from the malfunctioning of the pain system.
Oh, okay.
It's not that there is no source. It means that the source is, the person will say, but I have pain in my arm or in my whole, right side of my body. But we say the pain is not coming from your right arm. The pain is coming from the malfunctioning of the sensory connections in the brain. So we know where it's coming from, but it's not coming from the arm. It's not coming where they think it's hurting.
Right. I mean, yeah, like what if there is no arm? But the pain is coming from the so-called arm that used to be there.
Yeah, that's called phantom limb pain because it's a phenomenon. Unfortunately, people who have amputations, and this could be a leg amputated, an arm amputated. It can also happen with mastectomy. People who remove the breasts, they have phantom limb pain on the breast that doesn't exist anymore. Even, wisdom tooth removal. People have, they remove wisdom teeth.
Yes.
And then they start having pain. And that's because it's a phantom limb pain. So it is what happened. It's not a plastic pain. Exactly. Because the organ is not there anymore, but the brain is still registering pain in that part of the body that is missing. And it's because of malfunctioning of the pain system.
I'm going to tell you one quick story because this has fascinated me. Someone I know, and this is quite a few years ago, had a very serious case of Guillain-Barré syndrome to the point where she was paralyzed completely. And as she started to recover, apparently her husband came in one day and she said, it's just terrible. I can hardly breathe. Someone has put something like a corset around me when I wasn't aware of it. And he said, you don't have anything. There's nothing around you. And she insisted that there was something really restrictive around her. And so I don't know how he decided to do this, but he pretended to cut it off. This so-called, corset. And he said, okay, I'm going to cut it off, with a pair of scissors. And as he did it, went through the motions, she said, oh my goodness, I feel so much better. I can breathe now. And apparently this happened repeatedly. And he said that if he pretended to cut this corset, using the scissors, but actually didn't press down on her abdomen, she'd say, you're not cutting it. I don't feel anything. And he would really have to show her that. What do you make of that?
That makes all the sense because it's neuroplasticity is this phenomenon that we thought that only children had. Neuroplasticity is the ability of your brain to create new synapses, new connections. So learning new things and rewiring the brain again. We thought that older people would not have the ability to reconnect. Once you have your brain, fully developed brain, you would not have the ability to regrow or or heal your own brain. But amazingly, you never lose the ability to do neuroplasticity. Of course, children have much more ability to do connections and synapses than adults, but you never lose. So this makes all the sense because if the brain connects two neurons, and we know if you fire two neurons together at the same time, they connect. They create a synapses. So if this person, she connected in her brain, I'm feeling this sensation and it's hurting or it's bothering me. And she saw that they were being disconnected. She saw with her eyes, or she felt. Now her brain saying it's not there anymore. So the brain disconnected. So there was a synapses that was made and now it's unmade. And this is one of the therapies. You mean to say
she's thinking that? She's intentionally thinking that it's not connected.
Well,
does that mean?
We use this in physiotherapy now.
So what is this called? Is it just called neuroplasticity, or is there a name for this kind of treatment?
It's called neuroplasticity. So the treatment is you use at the same time that we are doing movement. And movement can be in physiotherapy, in occupational therapy. You go to a personal trainer or you exercise yourself. When you're moving your joints, your body, you're touching, like massage, you are sending information to your brain. And you are sending information to your brain saying, I can move my arm. And then if at the same time that you are moving, if you do pain education, so you are now telling the person, disconnect the pain from the movement, because a lot of people, they don't move because they are afraid of the pain. And they are afraid that they made this connection in the brain. Every time I move, I hurt. So connect it. We need to disconnect. And so that's a treatment that we call now. It has so many names in the world. Each person that does this calls it a different name. It's called brain retraining, pain reprocessing, physiotherapy with pain education. So there are physiotherapists that they do pain education. They're teaching the person to look. Actually, they have to look at the member of the body, like moving, because when you see with your eyes that your body part is moving normally,
Yes.
you are retraining your brain.
That's,
so you use all the sensations
amazing.
to retrain the brain.
How long has this been going on? This kind of brain retraining, mind body therapy type thing. How long?
A couple of years, probably 10, 20 years.
About 10, 20 years. But still, I gather, not common. It's not as if everyone's doing this. So what do you think of this? What do you think of this, Andrea? This approach?
I think that's why we are in the middle of this crisis. We're living a pain crisis that, a lot of people are complaining of pain. Like the wait list to see me is almost a year. And, they say that 20% of the population, Canadian population is living with chronic pain. I think it's a lack of, understanding of what pain is. And also the medical community does not understand that, you don't just look to fix the periphery. Like you're just not trying to change stopping the fire. If the alarm of the house is going off, making a lot of noise, and it doesn't, when you examine the patient and when you talk to the patient, you know exactly that it's not just one alarm. Because the pain is not, if it was just pain here, that would be easy to treat. But when these people come, it's diffuse. It's many parts of the body. And then you treat one here, you treat the shoulder, it goes to the lumbar area, and then you treat the lumbar area. So a lot of the medical community are trying to fix the wrong part of the body. They're still trying to fix like the knees, the backs, the neck, the shoulders, doing MRIs and doing injections and surgery.
But you say, meanwhile, they're not taking the brain and the whole system into account.
Yeah. If you talk to the patient, you will realize, okay, this person is having nociplastic pain. It's more than just nociceptive pain. And what I find is once you reduce the nociplastic pain, like all these pains that they have in their whole body, all of that anxiety that comes with nociplastic pain, all of that depression, then it's easy to find like one, small area of the wrist that hurts, and then you can treat that area. But when they come to us and everything hurts, it cannot be 20 different diseases in different parts of the body. It's more like the pain system. And a lot of my colleagues are missing that.
So then going back to what you said earlier, is this playing a huge role in our other crisis related to the pain crisis, which is the opioid crisis?
Yes, of course. Yeah. Because what happened was, the medical community, physicians, nurse practitioners who prescribe opioids, when you see a patient like this, you have the desire to help. You want to help them and you want to say, okay, they sit in front of you and they are crying of pain. They are suffering. They had this pain for so long. And here I have a prescription pad and a pen, and I have a license to prescribe a pill that has the potential to help them. So of course you want to give that pill to them. But what we know, again, research has shown this, if you give opioids to someone who has nociplastic pain, you make it worse.
How is that?
Because, let me see if I can simplify here for you. So when the pain system is malfunctioning, there are all of these new receptors in the brain, new receptors in the spinal cord that opened because of the all the changes, the neuroplastic changes that happened. Okay. One of these receptors is called NMDA. I know it's too technical here, but so your audience will know is NMDA receptors. They start popping a lot in many areas of the body, including the spinal cord. The NMDA receptor is the one that will increase the volume of pain. So if you have glutamate in your body and they activate this receptor, the volume of pain is increased. So a pain that was, low intensity, now the patient will say it's 9, 10 out of 10. When you give opioids to a person that is in that state, opioids activate the NMDA receptor. So opioid will...
So it has the opposite effect?
It does the opposite. It's called, there's a name for that. It's called opioid-induced hyperalgesia. Hyperalgesia means more pain. It's very well described. I'm not, this is not new. This has been going on for years and years, for probably 20 years or more. This has been described.
So I'm just wondering though, does this only happen after a while? So,
yes.
because I'm thinking like, why would a person keep taking opioids if it happens, you know what I mean? If they're in pain.
Exactly.
So it worked at the beginning, right?
Exactly.
And then it caused worse pain.
Exactly. And that's the problem because the first few doses that they take opioids, the opioid will do, will be a very good experience for them. They will remember, and that's the problem. My patients, they always remember their first love with opioids. It's like the honeymoon period because they say, oh, but it worked so well in the beginning. Oh, I remember I started taking these pills and it was so good. And then I ask them, and how are you now? And now you are on much higher dose of what you were when you started. And tell me, how are you now? And they say, I'm in a lot of pain. And I say, you see, so it's not working.
You're using this approach, using brain plasticity. Can you give me an example of where, it's worked and you've been thrilled with how it's worked with a patient?
Yeah, I have so many interesting cases. So, one that is very interesting was this young guy. He was 20 something years old and he was using opioids a lot for his pain, probably 10 Percocets a day, which is oxycodone. And then he downloaded an app for his smartphone that did self-hypnosis. And he came to me and said, doctor, I'm stopping. I can replay every time that I feel the need to take a oxycodone. I open my app and I do 10 minutes of self-hypnosis and it's the same effect. And then I said, great. So let's keep doing. And he was able to stop all of his opioids just doing self-hypnosis, which is with self-hypnosis, basically you retrain your brain. So you lower your sympathetic activity, you lower all your stress hormones, and you put your brain in a state of more parasympathetic, which is more relaxing, recovery. And then your brain, comes down, you regulate your pain system, and then you don't feel pain.
Okay, Andrea, hold on. What's really interesting about that is he did that without your help. Like he did it on his own. You weren't even involved in that.
No, so they find, my patients are so creative. I had another lady. Again, this lovely lady, she had a bad arthritis, bad knees, bad hips, and really a lot of arthritis in her back.
Was she on a lot of drugs too? Was she on a lot of drugs?
She was, anti-inflammatory. She was not on opioids. She was older and anti-inflammatories for her pain. And she was thinking about doing surgery for her, replacing her knees. And we were trying to do exercises. But her pain, when it's nociplastic pain, it's interesting because the pain is different. If the pain was just for the arthritis there in the knee, it follows a very specific pattern. Like when you put weight on the knee, then you feel pain. And then if you rest, you don't feel pain. And and the pain is only around the joint. And her pain was everywhere. And the pain was all the time. And it was not just localized in the knee. It went from the hip to the foot. So you say, how can just the arthritis of the knee explain all of this big area?
So were there other indicators to you then that this was Plastic pain.
Yes, yeah,
Okay. Right.
we do a physical
Okay.
exam, and we also find that they are more sensitive to touch and more sensitive to pain. So there are ways that we diagnose an osteoplastic pain. So she had an osteoplastic pain, and then she went on holidays to Italy. And she spent a month there, and she came to me for follow-up. She said, Dr. Furlan, there's something different in Italy. I think it's the air or the water, because I didn't feel any pain there. I said
And
to
you
her,
said,
no.
what did you say?
I said, no, the water probably is not that different. The air, maybe a little
I don't
bit
know. I
different.
think Italy's pretty good, Andrea.
But I told her, and so then I said, I knew what it was. It was her brain. It was her brain doing, trying to disconnect those synapses of pain and movement, pain and knee. So the brain was focused on something different and did not want to have those connections. So I started planting a seed in her head saying, okay, but did you have pain? Do you remember any movement that you did in Italy? Did you absolutely did not have any pain? She said, no. I had sometimes that I had pain. I felt my knee hurting. I felt my hip. I said, and what did you do? She said, oh, I just distracted myself because I was so busy going to dinners here and dinner there and walking. And she said, I walked a lot in Italy. So she made the connection that her arthritis is the same. The arthritis didn't get better in Italy, that her physical activity was much more in Italy than it's here. So she was moving and using more, but she felt less pain because her brain did not allow her to be dominated by pain. So we use that as therapy for her here in Canada. And then we started training her brain to use those resources that she had inside of her. And then she was much better here in Canada. She learned how to shut down her pain.
Oh, wow. So see, what I find interesting about that too is that there is a known source of that pain. It's the arthritis. Like you could probably see that on a scan, right? That she has arthritis. So it's, as you said, it's not that it went away. So when she would say, like, let's say, so she's here in Canada now, she's going to go and do something. And oh my goodness, I feel the arthritis in my knee.
Yeah.
What would she then do in this new way of thinking?
She would say, I remember when I was in Italy and I had this same arthritis that I carried this arthritis with me in Italy. And in Italy, I was able to be distracted. I was able to distract my brain so I don't pay much attention to this arthritis. And I was focused on my activities. So she did the same thing here. She would distract herself, do something here different in Toronto, go out and plan something and cook and do hobbies, go for a walk. And she said, I don't need that much medication anymore because I can distract my brain and she feels the pain. That's what she still feels the same pain. It's always there.
So is it a matter of distraction? Is that what this is?
It's not just distraction, but it's losing the fear that you have about that pain. So if you think that pain is not just distracting, but if you think that pain is harming you, if you think that you need to go and fix it because if you don't do anything, you'll be crippled, you'll be in a wheelchair, that fear of that sensation increases the stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol in the brain. And when you are under a flood of adrenaline and cortisol, you feel pain more. So if there is any way that you can reduce your stress hormones, you feel less pain, you suffer less.
Okay. Is there a point though, where that will only work, up to a certain point? Because I'm just guessing, but she has arthritis. Is it likely that the arthritis is going to get worse so that this form of therapy is only going to work to a certain extent?
No, not really. We know there are people that what's interesting is the more they practice, the better they get it.
The better they get it. Okay.
Yes, because the more they practice these mind-body therapies, and they start getting so excited about it, right? Because they see it's working for this arthritis. So now they start working for their migraines. And then they start practicing that for other types of pain that they may have, like a diabetic neuropathy. And it works for any kind of pain. And they get excited and they start, doing more meditation, more mindfulness, and then they start walking more. And your brain learns these techniques.
Yeah. It's relearning. It's as
brain,
you said, it's relearning, retraining.
It's brain retraining.
Mm-hmm.
It's brain retraining. And of course, there are some types of pain that are like neuropathic pain. If you cut the nerves and they are, always, that area of the nerve that is cut is like always irritated and sending impulses to the brain. Of course, that's going to be really hard for you to eliminate that kind of impulse. But you can eliminate the nociplastic pain that comes after a neuropathic pain. So this is what I try to say. If you have nociceptive pain, like a bad arthritis that is always, irritating, inflamed, but you don't need to have the nociplastic pain added to that.
I see. And is it common that the nociplastic pain can result from the nociceptive pain?
Always it starts with a nociceptive or a neuropathic pain.
Okay. Yeah.
So you have an injury, you have a lesion, you have a disease that caused some damage. But if that's healed and you still have pain, that it's purely nociplastic pain. But in some cases, you have a mix of both.
Right.
But what I say is, let's remove the nociplastic pain, the central sensitization. So then we only have to treat the neuropathic pain or just the arthritis. And that's much easier to treat if you don't have all of the other symptoms.
Okay. So two things I just want to bring up. One is, this sounds as if it takes not just the knowledge that you have and certain doctors have about pain and this form of treatment, but it sounds as if it takes a lot of time. Whereas giving a drug is quick. And I'm not going to say it's much simpler because it's complex as well, but here's the pill. Go, there you go. And then from the patient's point of view, this is a huge mind reframing of the whole situation, right? Those are two big challenges.
You got it. Yeah, you nailed exactly. It takes 5 minutes to give a prescription of a medication and 30, 40 minutes to say no and find alternatives. So every time that I teach physicians, I teach a lot of physicians how to prescribe medications, how to say no to opioids. I'm not against opioids. I use them. I love them. If there is a nociceptive pain, irritating, and neuropathic pain, there is no better medication than an opioid. But not all pains get better with opioids, and they have a lot of side effects and complications, and it's killing people because of all the accidental overdoses and putting people in very hard situations and cause a lot of complications like sleep apnea. Opioids depress the immune system, so people are more prone to infections and more osteoporosis and fractures. So, of course, it's easy. It's more work to do movement, exercises, and your meditation, mindfulness. But it's much healthier and with less complications and side effects.
Right. And what about for the patients though, too, right?
Yeah.
Like how are you going to switch or turn the minds on to patients about this new form of therapy? That's because, as you said too, they're fearful. That's a really difficult thing to try and get away from that fear they have.
Yeah. And imagine, and they come to me and they say, you're not going to order an MRI. You're not going to order all this stuff. They want me to find one thing that can be fixed. And then I go and remove that thing and all of their pains will disappear magically. And when I tell them, no, I'm your coach and you have to do all the work.
They're like, wait a minute, you're the doctor.
Yeah. So I say, you have to do all the work. And basically is the two main therapies that we have to retrain the brain include movement and mind-body therapies. So mind and body. And as you said, it takes time. And and it's time consuming. It is, and mostly in the beginning. I would say in the beginning when they are learning these techniques, sometimes they find overwhelming and they don't see the results right away. So they get disappointed, and we need to be their cheerleaders, no, keep doing, and you're going to get better. And,
but that's, you know what, that is amazing though, because if the patient is doing the heavy lifting here, right? They're doing the work. Then it's probably more likely when they see the results, they are going to stick with it. Yeah. Because they did it, right? You didn't give them something. You didn't impose something on them. They did it. Yeah.
I was so happy last year, probably 5 months ago. I got a lady, she's almost 90 years old, and she came to me with her daughter. And she came to me and she was with a big smile. And she said to me, Dr. Furlan, I just came here to discharge you.
That's so good.
She was so cute. But she said, I just came here to say goodbye and to discharge you. I don't need you anymore.
Oh,
I was so happy because she learned how to do it. And she got a hot tub. And she has arthritis all over her body. And her daughter bought a hot tub for her. And she goes twice a day for 1 hour each time. She goes 6 o'clock in the morning and 6 p.m., except on Sundays. She said Sunday she takes a break. She does 1 hour of exercises inside of the hot tub. One of those hot tubs that you can, walk inside.
Fully immerse and walk,
You can walk inside. Yeah, nice. Very hot. And she said, I don't have more pain. Everything's gone. So you see, her arthritis is still there. Her arthritis didn't go away. But she found her way of
dealing with it. Yeah. If you were to look down the road, say 5, 10 years or more, what do you hope to see in this area of pain management? What would you like to see?
Okay, I'm so glad you asked that because I hope someone will listen to this and give me my wish. I wish kids would learn about the pain system in grade 6. Like the same way that they learn about the digestive system, reproductive system, neurological system. We need to teach kids these techniques. We need to teach them about what is pain, that we have a pain system, and pain is inevitable in life. Every time, one day in your life, you're going to feel pain, but it's a sensation, and that your brain has control over that sensation. You can modulate it. You can tell your brain what you want to feel, and don't let pain dominate your life and tell you what to do. Don't let pain control your life. You can control your pain. Everybody will feel pain one day or another one, but it doesn't need to control your life. And the sooner we learn this and the sooner we practice those mind-body therapies in early life, the best will be. That's my wish that one day we'll have this in the middle school curriculum.
And I think some people would think, to spend your life working in pain, which is what you do, right? You deal with patients who have the worst kinds of pain, and yet you are so hopeful. You are so positive. Does this give you hope with what you're seeing with these therapies?
Yes, because I see people getting better. Yes, I see those who really engage in these therapies and they take this seriously and they read the books and they do the exercises and they embrace the mind-body approach. They do so well. I have those patients that they don't believe in me and they leave and they go to another clinic that they will keep doing injections and surgery and more MRIs. I am sorry for them because I know that's not going to help them in the long run.
This was wonderful, Andrea. And I hope that people, and I'm sure they will, if they heard this, they will benefit from everything you've shared with us today. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
That's Dr. Andrea Furland. She is a staff physician and senior scientist at the Toronto Rehabilitation Institute, also scientist at the Institute for Work and Health in Toronto. Andrea has put together many videos for the public on the subject and treatment of pain. Please check them out. We've linked to them in our show notes. And please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Cram Ideas. Thanks for joining us today. See you next time.